Hello everyone, welcome. I'm back here by the creek again and there are some birds chiming in, so hopefully they will contribute in the video. Please also check out my online tapping course. You can take it in the convenience of your own home, just like that. Though I will put a link to the course in the description below this video. Now let's get on to today's video. How to stop being a doormat. Part 2. How do you stand up for yourself and heal this codependency and set boundaries? It's a red-winged blackbird. Wonderful. So I have 3 stories to tell you, and then I'm going to break it down and get into each of these. The first 2 are kind of milder examples, and the third is one that involves interpersonal relationships or a romantic relationship that you might relate to. So the first example is one that I had with a coworker a handful of months ago. And he found, it was someone that worked in a different department. He found some trash from someone else in my department, and he happened to see me and he had this piece of trash in his hand and he handed it to me to throw away. And I said to him, "Oh, what's that?" And he said, "Oh, this is from your department." And I said, "Okay, well, I'm sure you'll be able to find a trash can nearby." And I said it kind of like that. And he gave me the silent treatment for about 2 months after that incident. And obviously my saying, me not taking that piece of trash and throwing it away bothered him and offended him so much that his way of handling his hurt feelings was to not talk to me. And I didn't care. I was like, okay, that's your problem if you're going to give me the silent treatment. I don't care. Just because you were handing me something or kind of offloading something that you could do yourself onto me, and I said no. The second example is with another coworker who was quite a bit younger, very arrogant, very full of himself. And one day it was a slow day, and there was a lot of time to do kind of some busy work, and I was doing that, and he came up and he said that he would help, and basically was saying that he would do the exact same thing I was doing and that I could do this other task over here. And I said, no, well, I'm doing this. If you want to do some, there's more so that you can do your own, or you can do this other thing. He was essentially saying to me, telling me what to do, and as if bumping me out of what I was doing so that he could do it, even though he could have done it himself. And I stood my ground, and I just, without getting upset, without getting angry, just said, "No, don't think so." And it was totally fine. I stood my ground, and it felt good to do that. The third example is one that you may relate to, and perhaps something like this has happened in your intimate relationships. So let's say that you are someone who values getting enough sleep at night and getting enough rest and having a balance between work and rest throughout your day. But the person that you are with has a lot of shame around that because they learned that to take rest for yourself is to be lazy, and they got a lot of flack and a lot of abuse and negativity and criticism if they took time out for themselves to recuperate and rejuvenate themselves. So if they see you taking rest, they criticize you. Maybe they call you lazy, so maybe they make you feel guilty for allowing yourself to rest and to get enough sleep at night. Maybe they project onto you, and what they're doing in that situation is they are saying, without realizing it, they haven't healed their own wounds. And so when they see you taking care of yourself and being loving to yourself and doing what you need to function and to be an optimal version of yourself, shines a light on their own wound within themselves that they haven't healed. But instead of dealing with it, what they do is they shame you for it. They make you feel guilty. They project or manipulate or try to control. And if you're not strong, what happens is you cave in and you allow them to blow you over. You allow that criticism and that negativity and that guilt to say, well, I guess I shouldn't be doing that. And so then you don't, so that you avoid that criticism. I used to be a doormat I used to let the opinions of other people just blow me around and affect how I felt all the time. And I too have had to overcome this and learn and heal from it and to find my own strength inside. So when we have trouble standing up for ourselves, or if you have trouble setting boundaries, it's because you are so afraid of what the other person thinks, what the other person is going to do, how they might react. If you are not solid and strong within yourself, you are going to be afraid of someone getting defensive, and you are going to comply with everything that someone else wants and says. And inside yourself, you are going to feel angry at yourself, resentful that you can't stand up, resentful of them for what they said, that they're not more mindful. Well, the truth is, many people are not. Many people are not sensitive. Many people are not thinking, how do my words affect the other person? How do they make that person feel? Am I being kind? Am I being considerate? If you were raised to be codependent, you learn to be considerate and think of the other person times 100. You learned this old programming that says, I have no value. I have no worth. I can't say no. I can't assert myself, because if you did, what would go through your head was, oh my God, I'm such a mean person. I hurt their feelings. I hurt their feelings. I hurt their feelings. Or something to that effect of, are they upset? Did I hurt them? What about you? What about your feelings? Where did you go? When did you get lost? The origin, or the answer to that, as always, is back to childhood, because that's where this stuff becomes born. This is where that stuff gets created. If you grew up learning to be codependent, you learned you could not have a strong sense of self within. You could not have strong independence and self-confidence, because that was quickly squashed. It was never modeled for you. And if you started to have any at all, you were quickly reminded or injected with doubt, with self-doubt, or you were gaslit. So the problem is when you learn this lesson and you start to care so much more about someone else's feelings other than your own, to the point that you hurt yourself. You give yourself away, you allow yourself to be a martyr, you allow yourself to be a victim because you learned how to be a victim. It was modeled for you, and you don't know any other way of how to heal this, or of how to be in the world other than to be overly compliant, to be overly hurt by what people say when they maybe are trying to push you around to get their agenda done. But you have to remember to learn about your own, to learn about who you are. And when you grow up codependent, you don't get to know who you are. You only get to know who the other people are that you are trying to please. And you can anticipate their needs well in advance before they even ask. And you were lost. You never got the chance to get developed and to know yourself and to know what you like and what's okay with you, and that it is okay to set boundaries. Think about that. Imagine or think in your head just the thought of setting a boundary with someone, of saying no, or maybe responding to them, whether it's a snarky, sharp response, or if it's just something calm, like the other two examples I mentioned. How does that make you feel? And notice what feelings come up. Do you have some discomfort that comes up where you're like, oh God, no, I couldn't say that, or I couldn't do that, or, oh, they would think I'm such a bad person, or something like that. So observe what feelings come up in you. The other thing is, to change this, we have to be mindful. We have to start to become self-aware. Where are we? Maybe do you see yourself immediately comply, immediately respond and say yes, immediately kind of go into the mode of just allowing someone to dictate how you feel, dictate what you do. And watch if you start to do that, and maybe you do it first, but then you can backtrack a little bit and say, actually, I'm sorry, spoke too soon. I'm not doing that. I'm going to do this thing instead, or whatever it is. Remember that you always have the right to say to someone, for example, in the case of the example between in a couple, you can say to your partner, hey, I'm not okay with that. Or hey, I don't allow people to treat me that way, or that makes me uncomfortable. If you're codependent, you don't feel comfortable saying that. And likely, if the other person is not mature and secure within themselves, they would hear that comment and get defensive or project, or they would turn it around and flip it and blame you and make it that like there's something wrong with you, when actually there isn't. When you start to assert yourself and set healthy boundaries and tell people, be strong in who you are, what happens is that is how you develop self-love. That is how you develop self-confidence. That's you standing in your power and having and showing strength. This is how we have self-respect. So there's a lot here. This is a really, really deep issue. I'm going to be talking about this more. Please also watch my video on how to not be a doormat. That's the first one I did to this. And also check out my course and check out my merch. Coming out with a line of consciousness expanding clothing. Link to that also below. Questions or comments, let me know. And as always, thank you so much for joining me. I really, really appreciate it. Talk to you soon.